I was 68 the year I stopped celebrating birthdays. My children had moved to different cities, busy with their lives, their spouses, their children. I had become what many older women quietly become, someone who only exists when needed. When a babysitter cancels, when a casserole is required, when someone forgets the family recipe and needs it right away. I told myself I was content. I tended my garden. I drank my tea alone. I filled the silence with television shows I couldn't follow and puzzles I never finished. But the truth was simple. I was fading, not from age, but from being unseen. And then came Lucas. He was the new volunteer at the local library, tall, lean, 26 years old, with paint-stained jeans and a grin that didn't belong to this generation. I met him when I dropped off a stack of novels I had pretended to read. "Need help carrying those?" he asked. I laughed. "You calling me old young man?" He chuckled unfazed. "I'm calling you distinguished." That was our first exchange. I didn't think much of it, just a charming young man doing his job. But the second time he remembered my name. The third time he brought me tea. The fourth time he said, "I hope one day someone looks at me the way you look at stories." I told him no one looked at me like anything these days. He tilted his head and said, "Then the world's missing something." That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because of what he said, but because of how seen I felt. I didn't expect anything, not friendship, not affection, definitely not love. But I felt awake, and that feeling was more dangerous than any kiss, any touch, any vow. Because once a woman wakes up after years of being invisible, she doesn't go back to sleep quietly. The first time Lucas asked me to dinner, I thought he was joking. "Dinner?" I repeated, raising an eyebrow. "As in, you and me." He smiled, that crooked smile of his, the one that always made me forget how much older I was supposed to be. "No," he said. "As in you, me, food conversation. Maybe laughter, no pressure." I laughed. "I'm old enough to be your mother. Or my grandmother if we want to make it dramatic," he teased. "But I don't see age when I talk to you. I see you." I hadn't heard words like that in years, decades. I had been a wife for 38 years, a mother for 35. A caregiver for nearly all of them. I had played every role a woman is expected to: dutiful, nurturing, quiet, when needed, supportive always. And somewhere in the process, I had put myself in a box and taped it shut. Until this boy, this man, came and started peeling back the layers with something as simple as curiosity. That night, I didn't wear anything fancy. Just a navy blue dress I hadn't touched in 10 years, and a scarf that smelled like lavender and memory. We didn't go anywhere extravagant, just a quiet cafe tucked behind the city museum. He opened the door for me, pulled out my chair, looked me in the eyes when he spoke. And when I laughed, he didn't look surprised, he looked grateful, as if my laughter was rare and he had found it. After dinner, we walked through the park, and for the first time in years, I forgot to be embarrassed by my limp or my laugh lines. I forgot to compare myself to women his age, because he didn't. He didn't try to impress me. He wasn't interested in what I had done for others. He just wanted to know who I was. And somewhere between his stories about art school and my confessions about losing my sense of purpose after retirement, he reached for my hand. I hesitated, but I didn't pull away, because in that moment, I didn't feel like a role. I didn't feel like someone's mother or someone's burden. I felt like a woman. And when you've spent your whole life being everything for everyone, being seen as yourself for the first time, it's not a luxury. It's a revolution. It happened at the worst possible moment. Lucas and I were sitting at a small outdoor cafe near the park, my hand in his, laughing about something he had said that probably wasn't even that funny. It was one of those perfect spring afternoons when the world feels like it's finally remembering how to breathe again. And then I heard my name, sharp, cold. "Mom," I turned and there she was, my daughter Caroline, standing a few feet away with her grocery bag half swinging from her arm mouth, slightly open and eyes wide, in a way that told me this wasn't confusion, it was judgment. I stood quickly. Lucas followed. "Caroline," I said, trying to sound calm, "I didn't expect to see you here." She looked at me, then at him, then back at me. "Who is this?" I opened my mouth, closed it, then said, "This is Lucas." Her expression changed somewhere between horror and disbelief. "He's a child." "He's 26, Lucas said gently, offering a small nod. "Nice to meet you." Caroline didn't return it. Instead, she stared at me like I was a stranger. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice tight. "Are you okay? Are you sick?" "Sick," I repeated, stunned. "You're dating someone younger than me, Mom." "That's not just unusual. That's alarming. This isn't you." My voice trembled as I replied, "Maybe you don't know me as well as you think." Lucas reached for my hand again this time, not gently, but deliberately, like he was anchoring me. Caroline's eyes dropped to our joined hands. She looked like she might throw up. "This is disgusting," she whispered. "Do you know what people will say? What your grandkids will think?" I swallowed hard. I've spent my entire life worrying about what people will think I said, and it's made me invisible. Lucas makes me feel real. Caroline stepped back. I can't watch this happen. You're not well." And then she turned and walked away. Just like that. I stood there frozen, heart pounding, hands still wrapped in his. Lucas leaned in and whispered, "I'm not going anywhere, even if they all do." Tears burned behind my eyes. Because in one moment, I had lost a piece of my old life, but found a truth I could finally stand in. I thought Caroline's words were the worst. I was wrong. Because nothing prepares you for hearing your own son say the one thing you feared most, not shouted in anger, but delivered cold, final, and quiet. It started with a phone call. He didn't even say hello. "Is it true?" Mark asked. "Are you sleeping with a boy young enough to be your grandson?" I felt my hands tremble around the receiver. "Mark, please. Don't please me. I just got a call from Caroline. You've lost your mind." I haven't lost anything, I said more firmly than I expected. What I've found is someone who sees me, who respects me, who doesn't make me feel like a relic in a rocking chair. There was silence. "And then you're humiliating us. I didn't know my existence was tied to your approval," I said, quieter now. He laughed bitterly. "This is sick. He's using you. And if you don't see that, then maybe you don't deserve to be in our lives anymore." I froze. "What did you say?" He took a breath. Then, "You're dead to me." And just like that, he hung up. I stood there for a long time, phone still in my hand, heart pounding, body numb. I wanted to scream, to cry, to crumble. But none of that came. Instead, something unexpected filled the silence. A kind of stillness. A devastating, liberating clarity. I had spent my life giving them everything, my body, my time, my youth, my identity. And now that I had taken back even a sliver of joy for myself, they disowned me. Lucas came home later that evening and found me sitting at the kitchen table, phone still on the counter. "He knows," I said. He didn't ask what happened. Didn't ask if I was okay. He just walked over, knelt beside me, and rested his forehead against my shoulder. "I'm here," he whispered. "Whatever you lose, I will help you rebuild." And I believed him. Because when your own blood says you're dead to me, the person who chooses to love you anyway, that's who gives you life again. There are moments in life when silence becomes deafening. After that call with Mark, the days blurred. No texts from Caroline, no birthday cards from the grandkids, not even a forwarded meme or a check-in from an old friend. It was like someone had taken an eraser to the life I had spent 70 years building, and all that remained was this aching quiet. I started waking up with dread in my chest. Making tea I didn't drink. Folding laundry I didn't care about. Sitting in rooms I no longer recognized. Lucas tried everything. He brought home flowers, cooked dinner, read poetry out loud. But I barely responded. One night, after I had been quiet for hours, I whispered, "Maybe they're right." He looked up from the sink. "About what?" "All of it. Maybe this is unnatural. Maybe I've broken something that can't be fixed." He dried his hands and sat across from me. "You didn't break anything," he said. "They chose not to understand." "That's not your failure." I shook my head. "I feel like I've lost everything." "You haven't lost me." I looked at him, really looked. So young, so bright, so full of life. And there I was, tired, hurting, invisible to the world. "I don't want to ruin your life," I whispered. "You could have anyone. You could still have a future without all this mess." He reached across the table and took my hand. "You're not ruining my life," he said, voice firm. "You are my life." And then I cried. Not soft, gentle tears, but deep, heavy sobs that came from the part of me I had kept hidden for years. The part that had spent a lifetime being polite, composed, and quiet. The part that had never been asked, "What do you want?" He held my hand through all of it. Didn't flinch, didn't look away. He stayed. And when the tears stopped, when my breathing slowed, and my fingers finally relaxed in his, he kissed my hand and said, "I'm not going anywhere, even if we have to build a whole new family from scratch." That night, for the first time in weeks, I slept through the night. Because sometimes all it takes to pull someone out of the dark is one person brave enough to sit in it with you. It wasn't over candlelight. It wasn't on one knee. It wasn't even planned. We were standing in the kitchen barefoot, eating cold pasta from the pot after a long day. I had just finished laughing at one of his terrible impersonations. This time, he was pretending to be my nosy neighbor, Mrs. Wallace, with her nasal voice and tragic wig. And then he just stopped, set his fork down, looked at me. "Marry me," he said. I blinked. "What? Marry me?" I stared at him, mouth half open, waiting for the punchline. He smiled, but it wasn't a joke smile. It was the kind of smile that trembles just enough to tell you this is real. I shook my head, laughing nervously. "Lucas, you can't be serious. I've never been more serious. You're 26, I reminded him. You should be out exploring the world, falling in and out of love with wild women who don't take antacids after every meal." He stepped closer. But I already found the one I don't want to fall out of love with. I felt like the air had left the room. This wasn't some fantasy. It wasn't a game. He meant it. "I'm not afraid of the years, Adeline," he said. "I'm afraid of not having enough of them with you." I looked at him, this man who had walked into my life when I thought no one ever would again, who had stayed when it got hard, who held me when I broke, who saw me when no one else would. And yet, my fingers still trembled. "Lucas, if we do this, you'll be hated. You'll lose people. You might lose parts of yourself." He nodded. "I know." I searched his eyes for doubt. There wasn't any. "Why would you choose this pain?" His voice was soft. "Because I'd rather be judged with you than adored without you." And that's when the tears came again. Not out of sadness, but because in all my years, no one had ever chosen me out loud like that. I didn't say yes that night, but I didn't say no either. And when I went to bed, I laid awake for hours, hand on my chest, heart thundering, whispering to the ceiling. Could I really be allowed this kind of love? It didn't happen with champagne. There was no music playing, no audience, no camera. Just a porch, a Tuesday, and a sky that was too pink to ignore. Lucas was sketching as he often did, barefoot with a pencil behind his ear. I was sipping my usual tea, pretending not to watch him, but I always watched him. There was something peaceful about that evening, like the whole world had taken one deep breath and held it for us. He looked up and smiled. "You're staring again." I shrugged. "You're the only painting worth memorizing." He grinned and went back to his drawing. I watched his hands, the way they moved so freely, so confidently, like they belonged in this world, in a way mine never quite did. And then I said it, quiet, soft. "Yes." He didn't look up. "Yes, what?" "Yes, I'll marry you." He froze. The pencil fell from his hand. Slowly, he lifted his eyes to meet mine. And for the first time in all the time I'd known him, he looked stunned. "Are you serious?" he whispered. I nodded, tears forming before I could stop them. "Yes, even if it scares me. Even if the world hates us. Yes." He didn't shout. He didn't jump up or pump his fists in victory. He simply stood, walked over to me, and knelt right there barefoot on the porch wood and kissed my hand. "Then we begin," he said. "We didn't post it online. We didn't call anyone, not even the few friends I still had. It wasn't because we were ashamed. It was because we were protective. Love like this, it's rare. It's raw. It's easy to ruin if too many hands reach for it at once. So we kept it ours. Yeah, just for a little while. We lived in a bubble of whispered plans and secret smiles. We drew up vows by candlelight. We dreamed about a life no one else would bless, but that we would build anyway. In those quiet weeks, I felt like I was holding a precious flame in my chest, fragile, bright, completely mine. Because yes, the world didn't know yet. But in his eyes and in my bones, we were already married. It started with a photo. One of Lucas's friends, well-meaning, or maybe just careless, posted a picture of us at the park. I was holding Lucas's hand, my head tilted against his shoulder, his sketchbook resting in his lap. It looked innocent, soft, real, but to the world it looked like a scandal. Within hours, my phone was buzzing. My niece sent a message with nothing but, "Is this a joke?" An old church friend commented on my last post, "This is not what God intended." Then came the texts from my daughter, Caroline again. but this time angrier, colder. "You're humiliating us. You need help. Have you no shame?" Even my oldest friend Linda, the one I'd known since high school, left a voicemail that shattered me. "Adeline, I love you, but I can't support this. It's unnatural. People are talking." I sat at the kitchen table as the storm came crashing through my phone screen. Comment after comment, message after message, each one peeling away another piece of my past. Of the people who used to say they loved me. Lucas walked in from the garden and saw my face. He didn't ask. He just picked up the phone, turned it over, and sat beside me. "They know," I whispered. He nodded. "They're leaving me." He gently touched my hand. "No," he said. "They're showing you who they were all along." It hurt. God, it hurt. Because I had spent decades earning their love. Being the good mother, the good daughter, the good friend. And all it took to lose it was falling in love. With someone the world didn't approve of. The betrayal was sharp, but the clarity was sharper. I finally saw the difference between conditional love, the kind that folds under pressure, and the real kind. The kind that stays. The kind that shows up with soup when you're sick and holds you when your world turns to fire. That night, I turned off my phone. I lit candles. And Lucas and I danced in the living room to an old record barefoot and spinning the storm outside still raging. But inside, peace. Because when the world turned its back on me, he turned toward me. And for the first time in my life, that was enough. The dress wasn't extravagant. It wasn't designer or vintage or something passed down from my mother. It was simple white cotton, delicate lace at the sleeves, soft enough to feel like memory. I found it in a small shop tucked between a bookstore and a candle stall. The woman who helped me never asked for my age, never raised an eyebrow when I said it was for my wedding. She just said, "You'll glow in this." And for once, I believed it. We didn't rent a big hall. There was no band, no bridal party, no seating chart. We married beneath an old oak tree in the park where he first held my hand. Lucas set up folding chairs. Our neighbor, a retired judge, performed the ceremony. The guest list, 3 of his friends, a librarian from the community center. The man who ran the corner cafe, who had once said, "You two remind me of the movies." And that was it. No Caroline, no Mark, no nieces or nephews, no one I once called family. There was a moment standing behind the tree before the music started when I felt it all pressed down on me. The emptiness, the silence, the absence of a past I had spent a lifetime building. I clutched the small bouquet tighter and whispered to myself, "Do it anyway." And then I stepped out. Lucas was waiting for me at the end of that path, barefoot, nervous eyes wet with something soft and unspoken. He looked at me like I was everything he ever hoped to find. The ceremony was short, sweet. But when he said, "I choose you, Adeline, in this life and everyone after," I felt the ache inside me break open. Not in pain, in release, because it didn't matter who wasn't there. What mattered was the man standing in front of me, who saw me, not the number on my birth certificate. And when we kissed, I heard the birds. I heard the wind. And I swear for a second, I heard my younger self whisper, "You made it." So no one from my past came to my wedding. But love did. And I wore white anyway. Because joy has no age. And I deserved to shine. It was supposed to be a private moment. Just one photo snapped by a friend right after the ceremony. Lucas had his arms around my waist. I was laughing, my head tilted back, and his lips were close to my ear, whispering something only I would ever hear. The sunset was golden behind us. The oak tree stood tall, framing our silhouettes, like it had always been waiting for this moment. His friend uploaded it with the caption, "Love is love." That was all. We went to bed that night feeling light. Full, quietly married. The next morning, my phone was on fire. Thousands of likes, hundreds of comments. The photo had been shared across platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Some called us inspiring, others called it disgusting. One post read, "This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." Another said, "She's old enough to be his grandmother. He's obviously in it for the inheritance." The internet had decided we were either a miracle or a meme. I sat on the edge of the bed, reading the threads, unsure whether to cry or laugh. Lucas brought me coffee and sat beside me. "They don't know us," I said quietly. "They never will," he replied. "But some will see. Some will understand." And surprisingly, many did. A woman from Sweden messaged me, "I'm 62. I haven't been kissed in 14 years. Your story gave me hope." A young man wrote, "I used to think love had rules. You proved me wrong. Thank you. Of course, there were the cruel ones, too. People hiding behind screens throwing words like predator and sugar baby without ever knowing the nights we cried together, the jokes we shared, the silent glances that said everything. But here's the thing about going viral. It doesn't expose you, it exposes them. Their fears, their discomfort with what they don't understand, their inability to imagine love outside of a template. We didn't ask to be a symbol. We just wanted to be left alone in our joy. But maybe in some strange way, the photo did what it was meant to do. It made people feel, and feeling, even if uncomfortable, is the first step towards seeing. So yes, the internet didn't know what to do with us, but for the first time the world saw us, and that was enough. It started with fatigue. Lucas, always full of boundless energy and late-night dancing in the kitchen, began sleeping more. Then came the cough. Then the weight loss. We thought it was the flu, stress, overwork. But deep down I knew. There's a stillness in the body before a storm. And his had gone too still. The diagnosis came on a Thursday stage 2 lymphoma. The doctor's voice was careful, rehearsed. Mine cracked when I asked, how? Lucas squeezed my hand and whispered, we'll fight, like we always do. But fighting didn't stop the whispers. The moment the news spread through his friends, a few relatives, then eventually online, the trolls returned. Only this time they weren't amused. They were vicious. She sucked the youth out of him. This is karma. What did you expect when a 26-year-old ties himself to someone 3 times his age? They made memes. They turned our pain into punchlines. And worst of all, they made me doubt. Not my love for him. Never that. But whether I had been selfish. Was I the reason this happened? Did I curse him by loving him? One night, as he lay in bed, pale and weak, I sat beside him and whispered, maybe they're right. Maybe I was wrong to let you fall into this with me. He opened his eyes barely, and with a soft rasp, he said, loving you is the only thing I've never questioned. My tears dropped onto his blanket. He reached out, brushed one from my cheek, and said, they don't get to write our story, Addie. We already wrote it. And he was right. They could mock us, judge us, even celebrate our pain. But they couldn't erase what we had lived. Because love isn't proven when the world claps. It's proven when the world turns cruel and the love stays. Even through needles. Even through chemo. Even through nights I held a bucket while he threw up what little strength he had left. We didn't stop loving. We just loved harder. And when the world said, this is what she deserves, I looked at him and thought, yes, I deserve this. Because no matter how short or painful the road ahead, I got to walk it with him. And that was the most beautiful punishment I could ever receive. It was a quiet night, the kind where even the wind outside doesn't dare to interrupt. Lucas was lying in bed, thin and fragile, in a way that made my heart ache just looking at him. His once thick curls, the hair I used to run my fingers through during our slow dances, had started falling out in strands. That day, he found 3 clumps on his pillow. He didn't say anything at first. Just quietly swept them into his hand, looked at them, then looked away. But I saw it. The grief, not of death, but of losing pieces of himself. So that night I climbed into bed beside him and wrapped my arms around his chest. His skin was warm, but his breathing was slower now, more careful. He had stopped trying to pretend he was fine. I whispered, you're still the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. Then, after a long pause, he turned toward me and whispered, promise me you'll keep dancing after I'm gone. I didn't respond. I couldn't. My throat tightened, my eyes welled, and all I could do was bury my face in his shoulder and nod. But he wasn't done. Don't stop wearing that perfume you like. Don't throw away the sketchbook. Don't erase me to make it easier. Let it hurt. And then, let it become music. My tears were flowing freely now. You were the only person who ever looked at me, he said, and didn't see a project or a phase or a punchline. You saw me. All of me. I held his hand to my heart. I love you more now, I whispered, even through this. He leaned in, forehead pressed to mine. And I will love you, even after this. That was the last night he had all his hair. The next morning, we shaved it together. I sat him in a chair by the window. I ran the clippers slowly. He closed his eyes. When it was done, I kissed his bald head and said, you look like a warrior. He grinned. I am one. And I believed him. Because what he was fighting for was not just life. It was to give me one more memory, one more laugh, one more whisper. And every strand that fell, it became a prayer, a vow, a reminder that love, true, reckless, defiant love, does not fade with beauty. It deepens with loss. He had always been a dancer. Not professionally, he never trained, never studied form, but his body had a language of its own. Whether it was twirling me in the kitchen or spinning beneath a summer rain, Lucas lived through movement. So when the weakness hit his legs, it wasn't just physical. It was spiritual. He tried to hide it at first, used the walls for balance, said it was just fatigue. But I knew, I always knew. Then came the morning, he didn't get out of bed. "I just need a moment," he whispered, staring at his feet like they were someone else's. A moment turned into hours, and hours turned into realization. Lucas couldn't walk anymore. I sat at the edge of the bed, his hand in mine, the silence swallowing us both. He didn't cry, but his eyes held a storm. "I'm not scared to die," he said finally. "I'm scared to disappear piece by piece." I pressed my forehead to his and whispered, "You're still here. Every piece that matters is still here." That evening, I turned on our favorite record, an old jazz tune we'd danced to the night we got engaged. I lit a candle, closed the curtains, and sat beside him. "Dance with me," I said. He looked at me confused. "Addie." But I didn't mean with his body. I meant with his soul. I placed his hand on my heart, leaned in close, and began to sway gently where I sat, slow, small movements. And then, his eyes met mine. They glistened, they smiled, they moved. In that moment I saw it. The rhythm never left him. It had just shifted forms. He couldn't spin me anymore. He couldn't dip me, lift me, carry me across the room. But his eyes, they still danced. With memory, with devotion, with a joy that not even sickness could silence. I laughed through my tears. "You still got it." He grinned. "Told you, I'm a warrior." And in that moment, our living room became a ballroom. The candlelight became a spotlight. And the broken body beside me became nothing but love. Because when we lose the body, the soul steps forward. And Lucas, my brave, wild, wounded Lucas, danced with his eyes like he never had before. The room was quiet, too quiet. No beeping machines, no monitors. Just the soft hum of the ceiling fan, the faint scent of lavender oil, and the sound of breath that was becoming more and more fragile. Lucas lay curled beneath his favorite quilt, the one we stitched together in the early days of our marriage, patches of memories sewn into every corner. His skin was pale now, translucent. His lips, chapped eyes, half-closed voice, reduced to whispers only love could interpret. I sat beside him holding his hand. He hadn't spoken in hours, but I could feel him slipping away. Not violently, not suddenly, gently, like a tide rolling out at dusk. I leaned close and whispered, "You don't have to fight anymore, my love. You gave me everything. You can rest." And for the first time that day, he smiled. Just slightly. Then barely audible, he rasped, "Top drawer, under the sketchbook." It took me a second to process it. But I nodded, kissed his forehead, and promised I would check. "I love you," I whispered. And he used the last of his strength to press my hand just once. Then he let go. No gasps, no drama, just peace. As if his soul had already made its way home. I stayed with him for hours, talking, crying, laughing at the memory of our first dance, our first grocery run, that awful motel on our honeymoon, where the ceiling leaked and we made love anyway. Then finally, I walked to the drawer. There it was his sketchbook, and beneath it, a sealed envelope. My name in his handwriting. Inside a letter. "My Addie, if you're reading this, then I've finally learned what silence feels like. But don't cry too long. You gave me the most miraculous life. You loved me into the man I always wanted to be. This love the world tried to mock it, shame it, break it. But we knew the truth. It was divine. There's one more thing. Look behind the photo on the wall, the one of us in the field." Tears fell as I gently pulled the frame from the wall. Behind it, a key. To a small box I'd never seen before. Inside that box, an engagement ring. The kind he could never afford when he proposed the first time. A note with it read, "So you could have the one you deserved, even if I wasn't there to give it to you." And I collapsed. Not from grief alone, but from the overwhelming, unbearable grace of being loved that completely. Even in death, he had thought of me. And in that moment, I knew something no one could ever take from me. I had lived a love so real, it refused to die. If you've made it this far, maybe you're someone who's been told you're too late, too old, too different, too foolish to believe in love that's messy, inconvenient, unexplainable. I wrote this for you because the world tried to shame me. My children disowned me. Strangers laughed, mocked, accused me of things I never did, of being desperate, delusional, even dangerous. All because I fell in love with a man 44 years younger than me. But I'm here to say, love saved me. Not just the sweet parts, the hand-holding, the kisses, the laughter, but the hard parts too. The arguments, the doubts, the silence. The nights I thought, maybe they're right. He made me feel young, not because of his age, but because he looked at me like I was possible. Like I still had chapters left to write. And now, after it all, after death, after grief, after becoming a widow once again, I can say this with full, unwavering certainty. I would do it all again. The judgment, the isolation, even the heartbreak. Because for a brief, shining season of my life, I got to experience the kind of love most people are too afraid to reach for. And if I could leave you with one truth, just one thing to carry in your heart when the world grows cold, it's this: love has no expiration date, no rules, no blueprint. It arrives when it wants to, in whatever form it chooses. And when it does, please, for the sake of your own soul, don't walk away. Don't let fear steal from you what time has offered. I am 73 now. I wear his ring around my neck. I talk to him at night. I dance in the kitchen alone and still feel his arms around me. And sometimes when the morning light hits just right, I swear I see him smile. This story isn't just mine. It's yours too. For every woman who's ever felt invisible, for every soul who's wondered, is it too late for me? It's not. It never was. And if I had to live it all again, the ridicule, the loneliness, the goodbye, just to love him one more time, I'd say yes, 1,000 times over. Adeline,